live. I welcome Representative Joe Bellino, Joe Babe. I have to ask, how did Joe Babe ever come about?
Well, I was very fortunate back in 1987 to get a job for St. Vincent de Paul, a Catholic charity in Detroit. And we were on Gratiot and McDougal. We were about 20 blocks outside the city. And it's the edge of the rough neighborhood in Gratiot there. Well, I went from a small family business with 8 to 10 employees, who I knew all of them, to this business with 100 employees. And they were 85 brothers and sisters, and I couldn't remember anybody's name. So I started calling everybody Babe. And it's just been that way ever since. And you know, as a kid growing up, my uncles and aunts would call me Babe, Sweetie, Sweetheart. You know, we always use names like that instead of saying Little Joe or Joe. So that's how it happened, and it's been that way ever since. So
excellent. I appreciate your taking time out of your day. You're up in Lansing now. You're having meetings today, and Congress is in session. So I thank you for your time, but this is a part of a study that I'm doing with people here in Monroe to try to figure out, especially during this election year, how do we as Christians engage? What responsibility do we have in our secular world and the government? And how do we best carry that out? And as we get started with that, I want to share with you, one thought that I found. Martin Luther said something I found kind of interesting. That in the state, you will find it to be true that almost invariably the poorest statesmen administer it. So you'll invariably find that the poorest statesmen and women are the ones who rise to the highest level of stuff. So even in the 16th century, we like to complain about our elected officials or our government.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, it's like that in the House. The Speaker of the House taught at a Christian high school and didn't like what was going on with Representative there that was Republican, ran against him, beat him in a primary. He had 4 kids at the time, and when he got elected, he said his wages went up 4-fold. and then he soon had 5 kids. So that's Lee Chatfield from up north. So good guy.
Yeah, he is. I had a chance to meet him, and I thank you for that. Luther also said something I want to share, that if wishful thinking were a help, one would wish that everybody might rule for 1 year. And if someone had an enemy, he should let him be obliged to become a ruler.
I like that. It's kind of like telling, if you have a problem with parents concerning playing time, ask them to coach for a year or ask them to umpire for a year.
Yeah.
And get in somebody else's shoes and learn about it. Yeah.
You think I'm doing poorly? And then he talked about young people. Martin Luther was a bowler, I found out. Only their bowling, they use 9 pins, not 10. And he says, young people who complain, they think they can do it better. Just like they think they can knock 11 pins down at once when there's only 9 pins available.
I totally understand that. We think we can change the world overnight with big, bold ideas, but sometimes it takes time.
So, shall I call you Representative Bellino, Joe?
No, Joe Babe. Joe Babe's fine.
Joe Babe, I'm privileged to know you. You're part of our community. I appreciate the interaction that we have had, and I'm really grateful that you have chosen to enter into the political arena. You ran for office, and I remember when you did that, nobody thought you would win, or at least people I talked to didn't think you would win, but you did. You won another election since then. What year did you start serving as representative? What year was that?
January of 17, I took my office.
January of 17.
Yeah.
So thank you for serving, and
thank you.
You have our respect for that and our prayers. But what led you to enter into that arena in the first place?
I fell out of a tree and hit my head. No, really, I never thought about it at all. And you know, Pastor, life is a journey. And my journey has taken me on so many different roads. It's incredible. Some of your people might not know it, but my journey took me into your basement for 50 weeks a year for 15 years, getting sober. And so God, Jesus has taken my shoulder and pushed me in directions I never thought I could go. I got involved years ago in the Midwest Independent Retailers Association. It's an association of 3,000 plus small business owners that are trying to get things done to help their business so that Walmart, Meijer, Kroger don't squash them down and ruin all the small business. So I got involved in that, and I saw what was happening Lansing-wide and nationwide. And then I also got involved in the community college. I was appointed to the board of trustees back in 2001, and I won a few elections after that. So I got to see how that, when it came to money for education in Lansing here, K through 12 was number one. Number two were the big colleges. And number three, the ugly stepchild, is the community colleges. So those two things got me thinking that, somebody needs to be a voice in Lansing for the small business owner with a store, the small community colleges. And that's what got me thinking about it years ago. And I really thought that when Bill Lavoie was done, I would run for his seat and have a chance of winning. But I thought that maybe when he was done, I wouldn't win the seat. So I thought I'd run for it while he was still in office and learn how to run for an office and then lose gracefully and then run again 2 years later. That was our plan. In fact, I was so confident I was going to lose that my two sign guys and another helper of mine, my AA sponsor, we were going to Pinehurst, North Carolina on Thursday morning at dawn to go golf for a long weekend and come home so I could decompress over the long election season. I won. They left without me. So I ended up catching a plane at 6 in.the.morning Friday because I had 2 days of school in Lansing after I won. And they picked me up at the Raleigh-Durham airport and we golfed for a couple of days and came home. But yeah, you never know what direction you're going to be pushed or led by almighty power, Jesus. And I just followed it and look what happened.
So no wonder people didn't think you would win. You didn't think you would win.
All the polls said I was going to lose by 5 to 8 points, right up to the end. But we kept working hard, and I had a dinner with Randy Richville, an old high school friend of mine, 2 weeks beforehand. He said, "Don't worry, Joe. I lost my first election too." And we went home. My wife started crying. "All this work for nothing." I said, "Honey, we're going to lose, but it's going to be close. Don't worry. We're going to make it real close." So who knew? I just caught magic in a bag, and he had some things for me to do, and he let me win. So
that's in Romans chapter 13 that says all government is instituted by God, and nobody comes to power without God having ordained that.
Yep.
God put Bill Lavoie in that position before you, put you in that position before you thought you might have that position. And that's really helpful for us as Christians because throughout the New Testament, it talks about obeying and respecting your government officials.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't do that so well in our culture today because there's so much anger, there's so much condemnation. And that's one of the reasons why I did this class is we have election coming up. Whoever's elected, we need to realize is there by God's hand, and we support them, we support them. We may not agree, but we certainly can't condemn people. That's not helpful to our cause as Christians, which is to bring all people together under the umbrella of Jesus. But I operate by the gospel, and that's my job. That's what the church has. As a representative, you're in that. Luther says the government has the arm of the sword. How do you as a Christian see what you have to offer to Michigan as a representative?
Well, thanks for the question. First of all, let me tell you, my mentor and my hero before I was elected was Kate Ebley. When Kate served in office, probably 2006 to 2010, she'd stop by the store once a week, once every 2 weeks, and we would talk. And Kate was worked for Comcast or one of the big cable companies. She was a Democrat, but we talked about a lot of issues. We didn't always agree, but we talked about it very civilly. And we'd stand in the back by the wine and talk for a half hour. And I loved her immensely. And she had cancer. She got beat. She had cancer. She died. But she was a hero of mine. So when I got elected, I wanted to be like Kate Ebley. I want to talk to people, see what their problems are, see if you can help them with their problems. Right now, the biggest thing my staff is working on is unemployment compensation. The system is so overloaded. We're doing individually, my staff, trying to get people in the back door to get their stuff filled out properly. So it's okayed by the state government so they can get their money that they deserve, that they're supposed to get. So they've been working their rear ends off on that. So there's no joy in that, at the end, but we're helping people. And that's what where the joy comes from. I got into this very blindly, thinking that I'm here just for all the people. When come to find out, there's other people on the other side of the state that don't want what I want. So sometimes we conflict, not just parties, but parts of the state, what we want to have done. I was lucky early on. The governor pulled me aside and put me on an opioid commission because he found out that I was an addict in recovery. And it was very enlightening. I got my foot in the door and how bills are crafted, how to get them through committee and how to get them on the floor and give a floor speech on what's going on. And, I wake up every day, Pastor, and I pray. And I thank my good Lord Jesus that I have another day to serve. And I try to serve that day. And I try to talk to a sober person that day. If I can, I read a paragraph or two of my AA Big Book. At the end of the day, I give thanks for that day. And that's how I run my life. If politics and good policy come in charge of that or getting aligned with that, that's great. That's great. But my job every day is to stay sober and to help other alcoholics achieve sobriety. So I'm here on a path from God, and I'm able to touch people in a way that's different from a lot of alcoholics. But my main job here is to help people. And I try to take that attitude into Lansing every day and do the same thing and just act like everybody's a child of God like I am and try to help them out.
That's awesome. We appreciate that. People love to diss on politicians or people in elected position. I found that when I speak to people, there were some really good people that are serving our government at every level. What have you found? What's your experience after having served a few years now as representative?
There's 110 people in the House. I think there's only 4 or 5 idiots. That's just by my count, I think. I tell you, when I first got elected, I was pulled aside. I got to meet a Democrat. Got to be real good friends with a guy named John Kevala from Marquette. And second day we were talking, he pulls me on the House floor. He pointed out people on both sides of the aisle that I wanted to stay away from because they would stab you in the back. And he was right. He was a Democrat. He was right. He showed me the people to stay away from because, we have a saying in AA, you can sober up a horse thief, but sometimes you still have a sober horse thief. And same thing happens up here in Lansing. And I cherish, John died a couple of years ago. I cherish his memory of that every day. And he sent me a few text messages and pictures that I save in my phone to look at if I'm down and I want to laugh. I think of John Kevala. There's bad people on both sides of the aisle, and not really bad, but people that have their own personal agenda in front of what's best for the people. That's what makes it bad. So
what does it take to be successful as a representative?
Boy, you got to be just like if you want to get successful getting sober, you got to be honest, open-minded, and willing to change. I had a bill, it's going through committee and Senate today. I think it's an e-prescribe bill. I thought it was a perfectly crafted bill, but it's had like 600 changes, and I'm okay with that because to get it through, I've got to make changes. Last term, I had a Good Samaritan bill. A lot of states have a Good Samaritan bill. Let's say, Pastor, that you and I are out partying and we're shooting up, and I OD. If you call the police in a lot of states to save my life, you won't get in trouble. They won't take you to jail. If they find stuff, they won't take your heroin kit and stuff, put you in jail. In Michigan, that can't happen. So people are reluctant to make the phone call. I thought that was perfectly crafted. I thought it was a great idea, but a lot of people in Lansing didn't understand it like I did, and it went nowhere. So just things like that. I thought it was a great idea with my experience, and it's working in other states, but people in Lansing didn't like it, and it went nowhere. So that happens. So you got to be honest, open-minded, willing to change, and you got to work hard, and you have to go across each side of the aisle. My first term, it was the last term for a lady named Rosemary. She's a Democrat. I can't think of her last name. Her son just died a few months ago of COVID. He was a rep from the East Side. He won her seat. But I had a bill and I wanted to get through, and it was a bill to take people that couldn't pay their tickets from drunk driving or excess fines they had. There was a fee you had to pay the state, and I wanted to get rid of that fee so that people that were poor could get a job and get a license and get back in society. Because we were holding this, it was balancing our budget in the state, $600 million worth. Driver reinstatement fee. So they said, if you want to get the Dems vote, you got to go sit with Mary Rose, explain it to her. And if you get her to say yes, you're going to get a lot of Dems come to your side. So I trudged across the other side of the aisle where the air sometimes is thinner, but sometimes thicker. And I knelt next to Mary Rose and I showed her the bill and I explained it to her and I explained my life and why this was a good bill and yada, yada, yada. And the next day she came to me and said, it's not perfect, but I can vote for it. And I got all but one Dem vote. So sometimes you got to do that. So Mary Rose is a good girl. Yep. Yep. So that happens sometimes.
Together.
And sometimes your own party doesn't like it. So, you do what you can. And we have to remember there's forces on both sides of the good and bad of every bill you have. Today we had a couple simple transportation bills. Well, these people are for it, these people are against it, and we're just trying to make it better for counties to be able to build roads, but some people like it, some people don't. So we'll find a happy medium and we'll get through it. So
It's interesting just listening to you. As a church body, we've not always been known for people becoming involved in the community. We've not always been seen as a church that's interested in becoming involved in the community. And I think that has made the church weaker. Our authority is to forgive sins, but we are part of Monroe. And if we can reach across the aisle, like you talk about, if we can work with anybody and everybody in the city of Monroe to make Monroe stronger, then that's what we're about.
mm-hmm.
What do you say to people about getting involved in whatever level of government or community?
It's so important to have grassroots, whether it's township level, city, the city park commission, the county park commission, anything to get people involved, because we need to have layers of people coming up that have experience. It's hard to be thrown to be a county executive to have no experience at all. So doing stuff in the meantime, as you're a young child or a young adult and your kids are older, you get involved, it just fills the ranks and makes it better for the whole county. We need good, honest, hardworking people with the county's heart, good heart for the county to work for it, and the city to work for what's best for the city. The city and the county government can only do so much. There's only so many dollars. We need people's involvement to kind of supplement those dollars and do things gratis and try to help out.
Great. I appreciate that. That's one of the things that we are trying to encourage. Get involved, be involved. It's not our job as a church, but for each and every member, we're citizens of this community. And it's a great community. My wife and I have only been part of Monroe County since 2012, but this is a great place to call home, and we appreciate that. So when you're all said and done, what do you hope to accomplish?
I don't know. I don't have any set goal when I'm done, what I want to have accomplished. I just like it to be a little better place than when I got here. I still want to make a mark on the state of let them know that Monroe County is separate from Downriver. It's separate from Detroit. Our southern part of our county thinks they're part of Toledo, and our northern part of our county thinks they're part of Wayne County. So sometimes we get lost in the shuffle there with the state road money, with the state whatever money. Pastor, I just want to wake up every day and stay sober, help another alcoholic, and do what I can for the community. That's all I can do. And if I do that, if I think like that, I have a chance to remain humble that day. And if I'm humble, I can be a great servant. That's my goal.
Well, you are, and we appreciate that. You're a fast talker, so I don't have as much time.
I start going, you can't shut me down.
So we've gone through all of my stuff. What would you like to share?
Well, this is for your parish, right? Do you share this for all the parish?
Yeah.
Are you okay? I want to say thank you to your elders and all the members of your church for what you do for the community. A lot of people out there know it, but some might not know it. But your basement has housed, until COVID came along, the longest running AA meeting in the whole county of Monroe. Over 60 years, it's been meeting on Tuesday nights in your basement. And I want to thank your parish for that, your community, because that's been a great godsend to our whole community. Hundreds and hundreds of people have gotten sober and made great lives of themselves and their family because of your church basement. And when I got sober, and I raised my kids, they were raised a little better than would have happened if I was still drinking and drugging. Let's get honest here. So It shares generations, and it goes on and on and on. And you build a Christmas tree of love and respect and Christianity that can't be beat. So I want to thank your church for that. That's really all I got to say.
It's
Thankful.
interesting, when this pandemic came along, I was approached, can AA still meet in the basement? Or we were closing our campus.
Mm-hmm.
And my response was, if you need to meet there, you can meet there. If you can find a way to do what you need to do to support one another apart from that, our campus is closed. And they came back and said, we figured out how to do it. And,
Yeah, Zoom. We have Zoom meetings every
yeah,
day, all during the day. Now, the governor has let us have meetings less than 10 people. So there are a couple spots in the county where there's small meetings, 8 to 10 people. But like I told the governor's people, if you're limiting it to 10 and the 11th person walks through the door, we're not going to kick them out. And they understood that. So that's just how it is.
Zoom has, this has opened up opportunities to reach people. My good friend Dan has become a part of AA meetings here in Monroe again, even though he moved away. And
yeah, we see him. He's in Reno. We see him. We get guys from Carolina, Florida, Arizona. It's cool because these guys have been going for a long time, or maybe just a couple of years, and it's good to see their faces.
Yep, we have people worshiping from all different, California, Missouri, upstate. So there's been good stuff that God has brought through this, and we'll come through it.
Yeah.
But I really want to thank you for taking your day. You're always an encouragement. That's one of the gifts that God has given to you, to see the positive, and you truly do have a servant's heart. And we appreciate that in all of our elected officials. Well, we appreciate it in everybody, but it's nice to see it in an elected official.
Well, thanks, Pastor. Thank you very much.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks, babe.
And we'll try to work together.
All right. Have a great day. Reach out if you need
Representative
something.
Joel Babe Bellino, serving us in our little capacity today. Have a great one. Thank you very much.
See you, sir.
Okay.